Hello PM Rants, today I'm making a video for one simple reason. I think your video sucks. And I'm going to be blunt about it because when I click on a video and I see some guy standing in front of his camera yelling and insulting something personally, I don't see why I should be completely respectable about it and pull punches, basically. I'm going to be very blunt because I think all your points are invalid. There we go. That's it. Now, brutal death grindcore. Are you talking about brutal death metal, deathcore, and grindcore? Or are you talking about brutal deathcore, death metal, or death thrash? Or what are you talking about? See, you need to be specific when you're talking about specific genres. You know, you can't say, you know, Cola Company Cola has had their stocks taken off shelf because something was tainted in the factory. You know? You gotta say, Cola Company Pepsi has had their stocks taken off the shelves because something was tainted in the factory. You have to be specific about what it is when you're talking about it. You can't just say three genres into one and then just say they all suck for the same reasons. That's not how it works, okay? Now, you try and go on about what real metal is throughout the duration of this video, which honestly doesn't make any sense because the video is why brutal death metal and grindcore, brutal death grindcore or whatever, is not music. So which point are you getting at? That it's not metal or that it's not music? Or that there's better metal than it? But if it wasn't music, then what would be the point of comparing it to other music? Why wouldn't you just compare it to, you know, noise? So the point is, if you want to make a point, you have to have a point, and you don't have a point. You're flustered and you're yelling at your camera and you're angry about something for the sole reason it exists, and it's kind of pathetic. Sorry to say. It is. Okay. So, lyrics. You basically pull out a Scar Symmetry song and you say, listen to this. You can't hear the lyrics, but once you hear them, they make sense, and you can pick out which words are which. So, you do that, and then, yes, you can hear which lyrics are which words are which words. Then you pull out an Abominable Putridity song, and you do the same thing. And yes, it's harder to figure out which ones are which because the vocals are A, quieter, lower, they're more distorted because of the technique the vocalist is using, and just a whole variety of things. You look at the lyrics themselves, and both of them are written in fine poetic form. There's nothing wrong with them musically, they're just in different context, and you say one makes sense and one is confusing. But you never really give a reason why one is confusing. You just kind of say, I'm confused because it's different than what I'm usually listening to. Usually. Listening, not usually. That's basically what you say through your wording, through your actions, and that's basically what your opinion is. But you're saying these bands suck, and one thing you should have known before you did that is that the vocalist of Scar Symmetry is also in a brutal death metal band. So, here's an example of somebody who's in a brutal death metal band doing something other than brutal death metal to show that brutal death metal sucks. It doesn't quite work like that. No, that's not how it works at all. If you're trying to show it's not music, you should try and show it's not music, not just show that there's something better than it. Anyhow, after that you move on to the actual, you know, style of vocals. You say, you know, it just sounds like a pig getting slaughtered, whatever. Some people like that, and it's still difficult to do, which you've proved because you do a mocking attempt at the vocals, and you can't actually do them, which just proves that they're out of some people's reach and ability. So you literally screw yourself by showing your own incompetence at doing the vocals. What are you trying to prove? You know? It's like that guy at the bar that tries to show how much he drinks by falling on the floor and throwing up and spasming. It's just the opposite of what you want to do. Anyhow, somewhere in the video you make a point about them trying too hard to look brutal with their logos and their artwork. Now, I'm just going to do this simply. Have you ever walked into a store or looked at a CD and thought that cover looks cool instinctively? Yes, you have, because you are a person, and when you look at something, your brain determines if you like the way it looks or not. And if you've seen something, a logo or an album cover that you've liked, you just prove that your own point is wrong, because it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It's trying to draw your attention, and it's basically just supposed to look cool. You know, music like brutal death metal is extreme and brutal. So don't you think somebody that likes extreme and brutal things would look at a picture of something extreme and brutal, you know, with a little more attention? You know, I'm not going to walk into an HMV or whatever and just find an album cover with rainbows and flowers all over it, and it's going to catch my attention, because that's not what I'm into. I generally like things that are, you know, extreme and brutal. So if I walk into a music store and I see an album cover that's, you know, it's got blood all over it and it's got a very specific looking, sharp, hard-edged logo, I'm going to automatically look at that, because that's what is attractive to me. So basically that point is also void, just because of the fact that you exist as a person. Now, once again with that, you're trying to explain how it's not music or how there's other forms of metal better. It's still not clear at this point. Yet you're not even actually focusing on the music at that point. And then you state that anybody with a half-decent taste of music isn't going to pay attention to that. Yet you're paying attention to that in that segment of the video. So do you have a less than half-decent taste in music? Is that what's going on? Because that's what it seems like is going on. You said it, not me. You get to instrumentation, and basically what you say is that it sucks because it's so detuned and brutal, and, you know, the rhythm sucks because this. You say it objectively like it actually is true. Yet, most of the terms you use, you don't seem to know their definition. You describe the guitars as having such a low distortion, but they have a high distortion. Distortion is the effect that makes it sound distorted. You mean that they're low-tuned with high distortion, or lots of gain. But you never seem to figure this out, or you never seem to look this up and understand it fully. So basically you're talking about a subject which you evidently know nothing about, and you try and bring up facts about it. It just doesn't work. One thing I've noticed in the video is that never at one point do you show any sort of example of you playing any sort of instruments and playing any genre that's better than these genres you're, you know, saying aren't real music. Now, in my personal opinion, anybody who's never touched a guitar or doesn't play guitar avidly does not have a true perspective on the difficulties of playing guitar. And from this video, it appears you don't play any instrument, or you've never mentioned you play any instrument. So, evidently, you don't have a first-person perspective on the difficulty of music. I mean, here's a guitar. I made this guitar, actually. It plays very well, and I like it. It's made for heavy metal. That's what it's made for. Extreme genres of heavy metal, like death metal. Now, because I play avidly, I've been playing for years, I have a first-person perspective on the difficulty of playing guitar. And I can tell you that there's no such thing as a difficult style of guitar playing. What there is that there's different styles of guitar playing that can be taken to difficult extremes. For example, like technical death metal is extremely hard to play because it's technical death metal. I can pick this guitar up and I can play death metal fine. I can do it, because that's what I do with it. Can I pick it up and can I make a blues progression, or can I improvise basically a whole country song? No. I never learned any of that. I didn't. It's hard for me. It's not hard for other people. But playing death metal is hard for other people that can do that sometimes. So here's the point. There's no such thing as hard music to play. There's only music you don't know how to play and music you do know how to play. And evidently you don't know how to play any music. So that's evidently shows that all music is too good for your understanding. That's pretty much what you've illustrated in your video. You talk about the fans and you generalize them mostly as scene kids and you say they can't make arguments. But you fail to realize that just because somebody's into a certain genre of music doesn't automatically dictate all their personality traits. Now, sure, there are lots of people in, extreme music communities that are just flat out stupid. They can't make arguments and can't spell, they don't have proper grammar, blah 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 blah, they can't illustrate their point properly. But that exists everywhere. I've seen some of the most well-formed arguments, paragraph for paragraph, completely respectably, from death metal fans or musicians. And then I've gone to videos of classical, and I've seen people blindly calling each other faggots and retards. I could be listening to something like Abominable Putridity, and somebody can write a full paragraph of why, they believe their subjective opinion is more valid than somebody else's, for whatever reasons, or why it has more objective value. And then I can go, listen to Dvorak, or Tchaikovsky, or Brahms, or Wagner, and somebody can say, it's too good for you, and you're stupid, and you suck, and you're a faggot. It doesn't matter where you are, it just depends on the person. Evidently, from this video, you've shown that the genre of music you listen to has ignorant fans that can't illustrate their own points through use of yourself existing and making this video that you made. Am I directly insulting you? Yes. Is it immature? Probably. Do I believe it? Yes, so I'm going to say it. At the end of the video, you say, I'm sure some of my fan base listens to this and that's okay. Should you listen to it if you want to? Yes. But if you don't care if people listen to something that's created for people to listen to, then why do you find it necessary to make a video? I mean, especially after insulting the fan bases of this. Is it safe to say that the whole reason you said that at the end was so you could maintain, subscribers or fans and not insult anybody who already likes your videos? Yeah, it's safe to say that. It's pretty evident. It's really where all the evidence points to. Your video's like a steak with all the fat cut off. You try and make a point, but then you disregard something at the end, and it's not all there. If you get a steak, eat the fat. Be a man about it. But evidently from your video, there's nothing conclusive. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. But there's nothing conclusive. And I'm going to be blunt here because you were very blunt in your video. You were actually very rude in your video and very offensive to people just because of their taste and just because of what they like to make on their free time or as their career. So, the end.